And oh, no worries. And I went to school at Florida State University, dedicated my studies to environmental science and policy. I grew up diving in the Florida Keys with my family, and each time I'd visited, I had noticed it looked a little less vibrant and a lot more degraded. So I dedicated my studies to helping give back to the environment that I grew up loving and diving on and supported me throughout my entire life. So here I am now at Coral Restoration Foundation doing what I love.
Hey everyone, my name's Jack, and a little bit about me. I'm from Illinois originally, but I went to school in Tampa at the University of South Florida, and that's where I got into scuba diving and loving the oceans. I noticed all of the coral reefs kind of struggling when I would come visit the Keys and the east coast of Florida when I first started scuba diving, and that kind of led me down to the Coral Restoration Foundation.
All right. So let's take you all back in time. Corals have been on this earth for over 500 million years. They're one of the oldest living animals on earth, forming one of the most biodiverse and vital ecosystems on our planet. But since the 70s, coral reefs around the world have been rapidly degrading. Looking at this picture, we see essentially what is a coral graveyard. All of the individual pieces in this image are dead and broken pieces of coral. Stony corals are one of the most at-risk groups of animals facing imminent extinction. Coral reefs are vital ecosystems to marine life, but also to us too. At least 500 million people rely on coral reefs for food, coastal protection, livelihoods. They have an estimated global value of about $10 trillion. Over the last 30 years, we've lost half of our coral reefs worldwide. It's predicted by the year 2100, in the next 80 years, that all shallow water coral reefs could become extinct. But here in Florida, we're very, very lucky to have the third largest barrier reef in the world, stretching 360 miles from West Palm Beach to Dry Tortugas National Park. The Florida Reef Tract is the only barrier reef in the US. The Florida Reef Tract provides us with invaluable resources. It protects us from storm surge. It provides habitat for fish that are targeted by recreational and commercial fishermen. It supports our tourism agency or industry, providing a playground for divers and snorkelers. But sadly, Florida's coral reefs are under threat. Like I said, since the 70s, we've lost about 99% of our original stony coral habitat. 97% of the dominant reef building species, elkhorn and staghorn coral, have also been lost. But it's not just in Florida. Coral reefs are under threat on a global level. The level of die-off that we've been seeing happen in the Great Barrier Reef today actually started here in Florida in the 70s. It started with poor wastewater management and disease outbreaks, and then global bleaching events. But there is a silver lining. This has given CRF the opportunity to develop interventions and methods that are now being used all over the world. So let's take you back in time to review what has happened. Carey's Fort Reef is still considered the crown jewel of the Florida Keys, and here it is. Where I am currently is at the Coral Restoration Exploration Center down in the bottom left corner. And Carey's Fort Reef is about a 45-minute boat ride out just north of us. It's located in North Key Largo, just off of Ocean Reef Club. So here's Carey's Fort Reef in 1975. You can see huge stands of elkhorn coral in this picture, lots of habitat, and little nooks and crannies for fish to inhabit. Elkhorn coral is one of the most dominant corals found in the Florida Keys at this time, and these are standing about 3 to 5 feet tall. Here is Carey's Fort just 10 years later. We've seen a huge shift in structure and basically algal cover instead of mostly coral cover. You can see a lot of it around here. I don't know if you can see my mouse. A lot of it is just no longer, there's no structure, right? And here is Carysfort Reef in 2004. And if we continue, here's Carysfort Reef in 2014. Essentially, this is that graveyard I showed you in the first picture. I wouldn't want to go diving here. It doesn't provide any habitat for fish, and we see a lot less color and biodiversity than the picture from 1975. So some of the reasons why we're seeing such a rapid decline in coral reef health could be attributed to some of these local factors. We can see some direct human impact causing damage to our coral reefs from snorkelers or divers, collection of reef species as souvenirs. Also, poor anchoring and boating practices can lead to a lot of loss of or destruction of the reef structure. We also saw the disappearance of the herbivores in the 80s. A disease event had wiped out a large group of the diadema urchins, and that caused the lack of algal grazers, the diadema urchin, to cause a phase shift to an algal-dominated ecosystem. We've also seen a rapid development over the past 50 years, increasing nutrient runoff and sedimentation, essentially smothering our corals and really creating poor water quality for them. Also, chemicals in our sunscreens. Most conventional sunscreens contain chemicals that have been shown to be lethal to corals and toxic for humans too. So these chemicals that you might see in your traditional sunscreens include oxybenzone, avobenzone, octinoxate, and a whole lot of others that are hard to pronounce. But we push for mineral-based sunscreens that contain titanium dioxide and zinc oxide. So those are some of the local factors. But then there's the elephant in the room, climate change. Global greenhouse gas emissions have caused ocean warming and ocean acidification. Increasingly regular and sustained warm water events are causing corals to bleach. And increasing acidification is impacting corals' ability to grow and maintain their calcium carbonate skeletal structure that form our reefs. Essentially, climate change is the biggest anthropogenic threat climate change is the anthropogenic threat that presents the biggest threat to our coral reefs worldwide. But we're going on and on. Why do we care about coral reefs, right? They make up less than 1% of the ocean's floor, but yet they house over 25% of marine animals. At least 25% of marine animals are directly supported by coral reefs. Essentially, they're vital hotspots for biodiversity. So looking at these two pictures, we see a healthy coral reef or a healthy reef at the top and a degraded reef at the bottom. You might notice that there are a few differences hidden in these pictures. I can point out a few. In the first picture, we see mangroves. And in the second picture, we don't see mangroves. We see, essentially the loss of a healthy coral reef creating a lot of different issues. Without a healthy coral reef, there's a lot less to see, so not great for our tourism, a lot more storm damage. We can't break the wave action and degrading our coastline. And the fishing industry suffers, so it's not really great for the economy either. We talked a lot about the many benefits coral reefs provide. At Coral Restoration Foundation, we grow corals in our offshore nurseries, and we outplant them on the reefs. So what does that do? It provides a habitat for marine life. It protects our coastline. It regulates carbon dioxide levels, supports our tourism industry, provides food for reef-dependent fish, serves as a main food source for humans, and the list goes on. So, Coral Restoration Foundation is the world's largest nonprofit marine conservation organization dedicated to restoring coral reefs to a healthy state in Florida and globally. Our core mission is to restore coral reefs, to educate others on the importance of our oceans, and to use science to further coral monitoring research techniques. So we see this need to take action, and the only way to combat this large-scale decline is to take large-scale, massive action. How do we do that exactly? We work with mainly scleractinian or stony corals, which have been recognized by multiple agencies as being under threat, including CITES, Endangered Species Act, and the ICUN Red List of Endangered Species. We have a total of 20 different species in our nurseries, but our main focus is growing and outplanting 2 species of branching corals, elkhorn in the middle, staghorn at the top, and then 2 different species of boulder corals of the Orbicella group. Biodiversity is very important to the health and resilience of an ecosystem. We grow these corals through propagation by fragmenting these branches from other colonies. This is known as asexual reproduction. Originally, our first corals came from healthy wild colonies up and down Florida's coral reefs, but now our coral tree nurseries are so self-sufficient that we no longer have to do this. Some of the genotypes that we have in our nursery actually no longer exist in the wild. That's a very crazy concept to grasp. So within our genetic bank, within our coral tree nurseries, we have genetic banks designed to preserve genetic diversity of those corals that no longer exist naturally in the wild. Genetic diversity is very important to ensure the resilience of coral species and populations that make up our reef ecosystems. CRF works with just over 1,200 genotypes across 20 different species. Coral Restoration Foundation pioneered and developed the coral tree. This is recognized as one of the best methods for growing large quantities of certain species of coral very quickly. Each tree can hold up to 60 corals comfortably. I want you guys to pick your favorite coral on this tree and keep your eye on it. I'm going to choose this little one in the bottom left corner that looks like a chicken foot. Keep your eye on it, and boom. This is the same tree, believe it or not, just 9 months later. I don't know if you can recognize your coral, but I can't. Observations indicate that corals on our coral tree grow faster than they do when attached to reef substrate. But it's not just one tree. It's not just a dozen tree. It's an entire coral tree nursery. So what you're looking at here is Tavernier Nursery. It is the largest coral tree nursery in the world with over 500 coral trees with 60 corals per tree. That's just about 30,000 corals that could be produced in one area in just 9 months' time to a year. Nowhere else can you swim through a living forest of coral quite like this. And we have about 8 nurseries up and down the coral reef tract. We have 8 coral tree nurseries up and down the coral reef tract, which gives us about 45,000 corals that could be produced in such a short time. So bringing them back to the reef, how do we do that exactly? In the nursery, our reef-ready corals are harvested and grouped by the same genotype and placed into very high-tech milk crates. These crates of coral are transported via boat to the restoration site. Since 2007, we've focused on the restoration of more than 34 reef sites up and down the Keys. Which brings me to Mission Iconic Reefs. In December of 2019, NOAA and their partners announced the most ambitious reef restoration plan in the world called Mission Iconic Reefs. This collaborative effort focuses on the restoration of 7 iconic reef sites up and down the Florida Keys, aiming to restore a total area of 64 football fields over the next 20 years. At the reef site, corals of that same genotype are attached to the reef in clusters of about 50 or 60 using marine-grade epoxy. This is meant to cover a large area of reef and encourages fusion of the corals. This method results in a blanketing of the reef with corals, increasing restored area on a massive scale. And it works. Our data shows that it works. Traditionally, we monitored our algae plants with paper and pencil, but this methodology was very limiting in quite a few ways and difficult to maintain as the scale of our work increased. In 2017, our data showed that over 1 year, CRF outplants had an average survivorship of about 77% across all sites and species. So as we scaled up our restoration efforts, it was difficult to pay each coral we outplanted a house visit. So our primary monitoring is done through photomosaics. Photomosaics allow us to create a 3D model of coral reefs that we've outplanted on, as well as surrounding reef structure. And this is used by just a photo rig constructed with PVC pipe and 2 GoPros. So this allows us to track the progression of corals outplanted through time. In 2016, a 10-year published scientific study revealed that areas where CRF restoration was taking place, the trajectory of staghorn coral populations increased. And areas where restoration was not taking place, the population trajectory decreased. This study shows that essentially where outplant efforts were taking place, and especially recurring ones, we can combat reef degradation through stabilization. So this is a healthy staghorn thicket. These are outplanted corals that have fused together into one big colony. This is what a healthy structure should look like, providing habitat for biodiversity that coral reef supports. So every year, our corals do something truly special. Sometime after the first full moon, after the summer solstice, our corals spawn. We've documented spawning in outplanted colonies in just 2 years' time after they're outplanted. This spawning indicates that corals are thriving and it's kickstarting the reef's natural recovery process. So you guys remember Carey's Fort, really sad, really depressing. I'm here to show you that this is just an elkhorn cluster 1 year after being outplanted. We can see new growth amongst old mortality, ensuring that ecosystem level recovery is in fact possible. I'm happy to say that since the start of CRF in 2007, we've returned over 210,000 corals to the wild. And in this past year, 2022, we've returned just shy of 46,000 corals to the wild, record-breaking numbers. I want you guys to take a breather. Please enjoy this short little video, and it's going to give you a pretty good idea of the work that we do at CRF. Oh, no. Oh, there it goes.
Is there sound on this video?
Yes. Can you guys not hear it?
No.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
I would, if you could stop sharing your screen for just a moment and then reshare it. But when you do that, there's on the bottom, there's a thing that you can click to share the audio also.
Okay, thank you.
It's the left side bottom.
I'm sorry?
It's on the left side bottom of your screen. Okay. It's going to be there to ask the question.
Okay. Share sound. There it is. Okay. Thank you guys for stopping that.
We're expert in many problems with Zoom by now.
Can you hear it now? Awesome. happening? Ah,
All right, well, now you guys have seen all of the efforts that Coral Restoration Foundation is putting to restore the reefs, but it's very important to keep that momentum going, which is why we're going to get into why your choice really does matter. So being an ocean steward can be done in many different ways. Personally, I like to choose a few of these and just run with them. Like one is a plastic-free lifestyle. Obviously, going plastic-free is very difficult in today's day and age, but it can be easily done just by reducing plastic use. So one way I do that is reusable water bottles. I love my reusable water bottles. They limit the plastic because buying those cases of water, plastic adds up very quickly. Yep, we got one right there and right here. And it keeps your water cool. You know, who doesn't like cold water? Another one is using reef-safe sunscreens. Like we mentioned earlier, you want to avoid those harmful chemicals and make sure the active ingredients include titanium dioxide and zinc oxide. Pretty much every dive shop, or if you're ever out on a charter, they will have reef-safe sunscreen, but just keep an eye out for those active ingredients. And then spreading coral reef awareness is another great one. Personally, I really like underwater photography. It's a great way to inspire people and just to show the natural beauty of coral reefs and why they're important. But like I said, find a cause that speaks to you. You don't need to choose all 8, and just find one that really does speak to you and run with it. It will make a difference because all ecosystems are interconnected and every positive action does matter. And just find an environmental mission in your local area and make a difference. And then getting involved. Here at CRF, we have many different ways to get involved. You can join our dive programs where we'll take you out on a boat with us for the day, teach you about what we do, and you can directly impact the coral reefs, which I think is really cool. Being a volunteer is another great way. It's a little more of an in-depth experience. We'll actually have land days and workboat days with you. We'll kind of show you the entire process that we go through to help restore the coral reefs. And then we also have education workshops where we can present to you like we are today virtually, or come in person and do workshops. And then show your support. You can donate today. No donation is ever too small. You can make monthly donations. Purchasing from the gift shop also counts as a donation. Or my personal favorite is leaving a legacy through your will. And then shop CRF merch. We have a whole online store, or you can come visit us at the Exploration Center. We have tons of recycled water, all of our merch is created from recycled water bottles, upcycled ghost nets, anything that has been taken out of the ocean, pretty much. And then come keep in touch. You can come visit us here at the Exploration Center. We'll give you a tour, tell you a little bit more about us. You can sign up for our Coral Chronicles, which is a weekly newsletter where we'll pretty much keep you up to date with everything that's going on at the Coral Restoration Foundation. Or you can follow us on social media or visit our website at coralrestoration.org. And there's tons of more information and daily updates of everything that's going on and that we're doing. Thank you guys for joining us today. We were super excited to share with what we got going on here at Coral Restoration Foundation. And I'd just like to take a minute if there's any questions anyone has of what we're doing or how to get involved. Please.
Yes, please. If you have questions, this is a great opportunity. Key Largo is not that far from us, right?
no, Key Largo is not that far from you guys. Hold on, there's a lot in the chat and we're not there yet. Okay.
The name, they're asking you the name of the Florida Reef.
Florida. Somebody was asking for the name of the Florida Reef. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I guess in the chat.
The name of the reef tract that is here in Florida is called the Florida Reef Track. Which reef were you guys specifically asking about that we work on?
No, I guess it was the one in Florida. You said that was the third largest?
I think
Yes.
it was the Jewel, Florida.
Oh,
Reference?
Carey's Fort Reef. Is that, I guess I'm not seeing all of the things in the chat. Are they impacted a lot by storms, or did the nursery get broken? That's actually a really good question. Yes, some of our nurseries are impacted by hurricanes and tropical storms, and we do have action plans in place to anchor them down and make sure that not everything is completely lost. But, you know, the weather will do what weather does, and sometimes we do lose some of our stock, but it's never been so drastic where we've lost everything, thankfully. But yes, we do have things in place when storms come through to hunker everything down and make sure things are okay. Hold on. That's a good question. How do you all limit the harmful environmental factors at the restoration sites from affecting corals from being rehabilitated? So because our coral nurseries are in the ocean, we cannot limit all environmental factors that come through. But because they're in the ocean, the corals themselves are pretty well adapted to the environment that they're going to go back into. The coral tree nurseries are pretty well maintained, and some corals do have competitors such as macroalgae, bivalves, and fire coral, which is something they will face when they return back to the reef. But it is not possible for us physically to, limit all environmental factors. We do raise the trees and lower the trees depending on the time of year. We raise them in the wintertime, which is right now, so that they still receive all the sunlight and nutrients, and they are closer, I guess, to the sun, but they get lowered in the summertime so that it's not so hot on them. The water temperature, we bring them lower into the water column so they're not super hot and super stressed. I hope that answers your question. How long does it take to get the corals to what it was in the 1970s? Is it still possible, or is it too late? So this is a good question as well. The corals will never fully be what they were. The coral reefs will never fully be what they were in 1970. This is attributed to the environmental factors that were in place in the 1970s, right? Things were very, very different back then versus how they are now, with such increased carbon dioxide levels and ocean acidification, ocean warming, all the things. It will never truly be what it was back then. However, this does not mean that all hope is lost. It just simply means that what we're doing is able to stabilize the reef, right? I used that term when we were presenting. We are putting so many corals back onto the reef, as many as we can, to stabilize the reef from further degrading. And that is what we're aiming to do, right? We cannot fully return it back to its lush cover that it was way back when. But we can keep trying. We're in the business of putting ourselves out of business one day, right? We're going to keep doing everything that we can to stabilize it from further degrading. And hopefully the corals adapt to their set conditions, and maybe they do return, but I don't know if we'll see it in our lifetime. I hope that answers your question. Are boats banned from the area where the nursery is located? So they are not actually banned. We don't have a protected area around the coral nurseries. Fishermen can moor up to our moorings, and they do. It's really discouraged, though. We will tell them, hey, could you maybe go fish over there? You're kind of in our working area, but it's not like fully banned. And we're working to get permits in place where, it is a protected area, because it is a nursery, right? Great question. I am loving all these questions right now. We usually don't get that many. Is CRF a nonprofit? Yes, CRF is a 501c3, I believe, nonprofit. Double check on our website. It will tell you everything about our nonprofit and our organization in general. Our website is full of tons of good information about what we do, the science and everything. Truly, like our Coral Chronicles as well is more like up to date with the interns and stuff like that.
We should
Education.
Talk about our Changemaker Hub then if you're a nonprofit, because we might be able to connect you more with Miami Dade College students through this.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome. We would love that. Will the marine life migrate back to these reefs as you craft them? Yes, we actually do see a lot of biodiversity coming back to the reefs, which is really nice. And it really, it shows that things are like getting better, right? It's nice to see all of the little grunts coming back and a lot of the parrotfish too. Yes, you do actually see them sometimes in the photo mosaics that we take. If you zoom in real close, sometimes you can see a stingray in the sand pits or some little damselfish hanging out in between all the corals. It's very, very cool to see that. So yeah, we do see a lot of marine life coming back. Do you work with international teams? If so, are you able to visit and work on coral reefs in other parts of the world? Yes and no. We do work internationally. We do a lot of, just slipped my mind, learning exchanges with international agencies. A couple representatives will come or from our organization will go to those international places, whether it be Australia, Mesoamerican Reef, anywhere in between, and do learning exchanges where we talk about our methods and they talk about their methods, and we kind of just like take ideas from each other. And that's what's so great about the coral tree and these photo mosaics. Both of these things were pioneered and developed by Coral Restoration Foundation. And through learning exchanges, we are teaching other people what works best for us and how it could also work best for you potentially. And that's what's so great. They're made out of, I wouldn't say like household items, but really easily accessible items. Our trees are made out of PVC pipe and fiberglass rods. So you could make this at home if you wanted. And same with our photo mosaic GoPro rig. It's 2 GoPros on like this hammerhead type shape. And we just like scooter it throughout the reef to monitor our plants. Oh my gosh. Okay, now we're down here. Are there any new coral species the foundation is planning on working on within the near future? Actually, yes, we are upping our boulder production in Key West. We actually had an event on Monday in Miami where representatives from MasterCard chose to do a team building activity, and they built close to 200 boulder trays. So our boulder corals that I talked about sit on these nice PVC pipe trays in the water, and we're working to up the production of orbicellas, the MCAV, the Monstera cavernosas. We also work with pillar corals, but because they're virtually extinct in the wild, they're very, very, very protected by the Florida Aquarium in our nursery, and we don't really outplant those, but we do outplant a lot of the Orbicella boulder group. They're really great for reef structure, the barrier reef structure in whole and like breaking the wave action. So we do plan to ramp that up. We have a lot of production for that. As water acidity level goes up and animal species get weaker and fewer by numbers, will there be an animal rehabilitation help system in place to protect these fish as they move into their new shiny home? I am unsure how to answer that question, mostly because I'm not able to perceive what's happening in the future. I mean, what we're seeing now, I mean, with our corals, they're not super affected by, the Florida Reef Tract as a whole is affected by ocean warming and ocean acidification in tandem. I'm not really sure how to answer that. Will there be an animal? I'd hope that there will be an animal rehabilitation
So maybe some
help
other
system.
organization is
Yeah, that
taking
doesn't,
care of that part.
yeah, I don't think that's more our scope. We're very focused on, again, the stabilization of the reefs. I mean, I would hope that some fisheries project might look into that. That is a good project if you wish to take it upon yourself to like kickstart your own nonprofit foundation one day. I mean, that's how this organization started. It started with a local who saw the problem and was like, I want to get all the permits in place to be able to help. And that's what happened. So and now here we are, 210,000 corals plus outplanted later.
But presumably, restoring the habitat will mean that the species will come back.
Yeah, I think so. That's what we're seeing.
But we also need some policy changes in the Keys, right? To make sure that all the work that you guys are doing, it's going to be staying in place, right?
Definitely. I 100% agree with you that while we're making a tangible impact on the reefs, it will be, we need a lot of policy change in place. And unfortunately, that's not something CRF is currently taking charge on. We are, again, still just like focusing on the stabilization of the reef, but there needs to be policy changes in place to protect the very thing that we're making a tangible impact on. And I urge you all to talk to your representatives, send letters to, your governor and things like that. It starts with us, right? It takes a village. It can't be one person doing it all by themselves or perfectly. You need a village to do it.
But if you ever had some, websites with petitions going on, if you want to share with us, we're very, very thrilled to help you to move along the work.
I would love that if we had any petitions in place, but unfortunately, that's not the scope of our role right now. And maybe
you can partner with somebody else that's doing it, and we'll
definitely.
be happy to help.
I agree.
You have more questions there. Sorry, you have more questions.
Oh, okay. Oh, does CRF offer summer internships? Yes, we do. We offer summer, fall, and spring/winter internships. Unfortunately, our summer internships just closed, but I want. Oh yeah. Sorry, I'm looking at the chat and all the things. Yes, we have summer internships, fall internships, and spring/winter internships. There's a tab on our website under education and go all the way down. There's internships, and you could check the dates, the requirements, and all the things that you would possibly need to prepare yourself to be a CRF intern. I can tell you from personal experience, I am living the dream. It is the best thing I've ever done, and it's extremely rewarding in so many ways. So I do encourage you guys even to become volunteers. You guys are considered local still, even though you're in Miami-Dade, you're still considered local, and you could become a volunteer and be like more long-term. Yeah, sure.
So someone asked if we have ever heard of supercorals, and that's a great question. But here at CRF, we tend to focus on genetic diversity, trying to bring the natural way of life to the reef. Because corals predated land plants, they predated dinosaurs. They've been around for 500 million years. They've survived mass extinction events. They've survived heat waves, ice ages. And this is all because of their natural genetic diversity. It doesn't take a whole army of corals to survive. It just takes one, and they just need to reproduce and they'll start to regrow again. So here at CRF, we're focusing on keeping the genetic diversity, which is why we have a gene bank. And in some cases, we will plant corals that are, say, more heat resistant or more equipped to handle the acidic water. But overall, we're focusing on keeping that genetic diversity as much as possible.
Do you want to answer the other one?
This one?
Mm-hmm.
Do we have a record of extinct corals?
The genotypes, yes. I don't fully follow. We don't have like extinct corals, but there is a master records somewhere that our restoration / science team is involved with, and they keep, you can see which genotypes of some specific coral are considered extinct. But yes, there is a record that exists, but I don't know if the interns ourselves are not like involved with that.
What led you guys in helping and protecting the coral reefs to return nice and healthy? Is this a more personal question or from a CRF standpoint?
You could talk about your personal experience.
Yeah, so personally, I got involved with scuba diving in college. I was studying environmental science and policy, and I wanted to expand my horizon and field of work, which is where I really found a passion for the oceans. And you'll see tons of fish, but you notice that the reefs are nothing what they look like in all these nature documentaries and stuff. And you wonder why there's not all the color, why everything is so bleak and gray. And that kind of really inspired me. I was seeing the ocean struggling as much as they were. I wanted to get to the root of the problem instead of going about it in other ways, I guess.
If you guys could share one single thing with the world in regards to corals and what you guys are doing, what would it be? I'm not sure. What does that mean?
If there's one thing we could share regarding corals, it's really just that your choice does matter. No matter how small it is, or the fact that you're just one person, leading by example, showing others why it matters is what's most important. And how to join our organization or being a volunteer, all that information is very accessible on our website under the volunteer tab. But we do have internships pretty much every semester. We post about it on our social media when the applications are open and stuff. So just keeping up with that, you'll definitely get a chance to either volunteer or apply for an internship, which I highly recommend.
I have a question. I've seen presentations from you for several years, so I've seen many of the interns' faces.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so what do you guys do after? What's the general path of people that work at CRF? Because I'm assuming that that's a temporal thing. You cannot be volunteer or interns for the rest of your life. Can you share some of the path?
Definitely. So like you said, the internship is quite temporary. You have the option to stay from 4 months to a year's time. You learn like a plethora of different types of not only like restoration or science skills, but life skills here. I speak personally for myself. And after the year's been completed, people typically go off in the same career path if they are in coral if your passion is coral restoration and that's what you want to do, they will continue with that same career path. I can also speak on some other interns parts where they came here for the 4 months being like, I am a turtle biologist. I want to be here to find if I like coral or not. And then they find out, maybe coral's not my thing. And I don't really like this that much. And they go back to doing turtle biology stuff. And then there are people that come here, I would say a little bit older than some, and they are making a career switch. They were in marketing their entire lives, and that is not something they wanted to do. And they finally made the jump and said, I want to become a coral researcher or restorationist. And they do. So there, you see people from many different backgrounds come here for many different purposes. And then they leave, whether, they find another job with like a government agency or, they join the Nature Conservancy or things like that. They all take their own path based on like their own interest. Some people came here just to be a scuba diver and they had no interest in being in in corals at all. And then, they're a year in and find out, well, I actually kind of like these things. They're like the underdogs of the ocean. So it's very cool to see where everyone goes from here.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. I picked up a white coral at the beach once. The white coral that you see at the beach is the dead coral skeleton, but it's still really cool. I picked them up too. They're basically like fossils. It's okay to take from the beach. Just don't take from like the living reef. Don't take anything from the living reef. Here's another example. Sometimes if you pick up like plastic bottles from the ocean, there could be baby octopus in them. So when we do pick up like floating garbage that we see out in the ocean, we're very like cautious to make sure that we're not throwing away baby octopus and we're throwing away like a plastic bottle itself. So that is another thing to keep your eye out for, but never take from the reef.
Angelina has her hand raised.
Yeah, Angelina, would you like to share your question?
Yes. Thank you guys so much for this presentation. It was great. I just had a quick question. So I can't be an intern yet because I am not 21, but I'm looking to get my scuba license. I was wondering if you guys have any companies you work with that I know that they can be a little expensive. So if you have like any discounts or anything like that.
That's a really good question. We do recognize that becoming a scuba diver is very expensive as a hobby, or like to further your career. It's very expensive. We don't offer any like discounts at scuba shops. However, if you're planning to become an intern and you go through the process of the the internship interview and application and things like that, and you're so close to getting your rescue certification, and that's all you need to get this internship, there are some dive shops down here that are very considerate of that, and they will give you a slight discount on some courses. There are more dive shops in the Florida Keys than there are gas stations. There are so many to choose from. I could to name a few off the top of my head. There's Silent World. There is Rainbow Reef Dive Center. There is Horizon Divers. Florida Keys Dive Center is another one. One of our intern friends works at Amore. Those are a few. Like I said, there are more dive shops than gas stations. I'm sure if you went to one of them and said, I am getting this certification to become a CREP intern one day, they might slide you a discount. It never hurts to ask, truly. I hope that helps. It's not a guarantee, but
And what you mean by rescue? I'm a lifeguard. So
cool.
So is that like what you mean by rescue? I was a little bit confused on that.
There are different dive certifications. There's your open water, your advanced open water, scientific diver, and there's rescue. There's a rescue diver, which is, I don't know if you guys do that for lifeguarding, but it is a specific course to know how to basically save somebody's life or your dive buddy's life when you're diving. Know how to handle an obscure situation, an emergency situation. Then there's dive master and instructor, and that is as far as I go with that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Are the internships very considerate of individual schooling? Yes, Jack, can you speak on that?
Yeah, I can actually. So I'm actually still currently in school. I have a semester to finish up, but I wanted to get my internship under my belt and some experience. So I actually just took a leave of absence from school. And once I'm finished up here at this internship, I will be going back to school to finish my education. Obviously, it's a little tough to just pick up and leave from school, but this was a dream opportunity that was right at my front doorstep, and I just had to take it. And it's given me so much experience and knowledge that I wouldn't have really gotten anywhere else. So it's made it worth it in the long run. So if you're willing to put school aside for a little bit, get some experience, and then go back, it's definitely doable. But being down here in the Keys, unless you have online classes, it's pretty tough to do school and the internship at the same time because
40.
it is a 40-hour work week and you are here to commit your full time to CRF when you are on the internship.
I think we're at time. This was meant to end at 10:50, right, Karen?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay, thank you. So thank you so much, Jack and Jesse. It was a great presentation. I'm sure the students got a lot out of it. It seems they did just based on their comments and questions.
Yeah,
And,
definitely.
I saw you taking note of my email, so I look forward to hearing from you.
Yes.
To connect you more with Miami Dade College students.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
Thank you guys for giving us this opportunity to talk to you. All of your questions were super enlightening, and usually we don't get this many questions. So I was like super happy to answer everything that we could. Definitely look at our website if you're curious about anything. You can always email us too. The website is the email is at the bottom of the website. So if you didn't have the chance to ask anything, yeah. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so
you.
much. Good luck in the future. And again, we hope we can continue collaborating with CRF.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you. And
Bye. Thank
anybody
you.
on the
Have a
call,
good one.
Mm-hmm.
don't forget to do the post survey, please. The link is in the chat.
Those for the students, Jesse.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.